All right, guys, intercepts. It is so important you know this. You write this down in your notebook so you're ready to look at it. You've got it so you can reference it later. And we've talked about this in class, but intercepts are where it crosses an axis. And so if I have a line, go ahead and write this down. If I have a line and it crosses like this, I have an x-intercept and a y-intercept. This one right here that I'm doing is called a y-intercept. And no matter what the y value is, it'll be something. The x value will always be 0. So this is called a y-intercept. I hope you're annotating. This is a y-intercept, and x is always equal to 0. X is always equal to, we're going to use that in such a big way in a little bit, so make sure that you have that written down. Over here, we have where it crosses the x-axis, so we call this the x-intercept. And no matter what the x value is, the y value will always be 0. So when you have an x-intercept, y equals 0. And we looked at this in class, you'll see that x is 0 for the y-intercept, so like different variable there. Right? Y is 0 for the x-intercept, different variable there. So make sure you pay attention to all of that. Okay, so let's look at how we use that. Let's say I'm going to graph, I need to graph 2x plus 3y equals 6. Here's how I want you to write this down. I want you to take notes on your paper whenever you're doing a problem. And you're going to write down that you have an x-intercept, and let's remember, x-intercept, the y is 0. And then the y-intercept, the x is 0. So you always make those notes. I want you to just get in the habit of writing that down. X-intercept, y is 0, y-intercept, x is 0. Then what we're going to do is we're going to write down the equation again, only this time I'm going to work on the x-intercept first. This time, instead of y, I'm going to put 0. So I'm going to write down the equation, 2x plus 3, but remember we're doing the x-intercept, so y is 0. And then I just solve for x. It's so simple if you just remember that y is 0. So 3 times 0, that's going to be 0. So now I get 2x plus 0 equals 6. Well, 2x plus 0, that's just 2x, right? Plus 0 doesn't do anything. Divide by 2 on both sides, so x equals 3. And then we got to write it as coordinates. So x is 3, y is 0. That's our x-intercept. Of course, I'm trying to graph this, so I'll get back to that in a little bit. The y-intercept, x is 0, so we'll go ahead and graph or write that. So instead of x, I'm going to put a 0. So once again, I'm writing down that equation, only instead of x, I'm putting a 0. And 2 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 3y equals 6. 0 plus 3y, that's 3y. And then divide by 3 on both sides. So y equals 2. Write that in coordinate form, 0, 2. And that's that. Now, you guys, one thing I need you to notice is that these are two different points. These are not one point, right? This point 3, 0, we're saying x is 3, y is 0. So x is 3, y is 0, so it stays on the x-axis. So I've got a point right there. They get their own point. And then 0, 2, x is 0, y is 2, so it stays on the axis right there. So that gets its own point. So they each get their own point. And then because I have 2 points, I can draw the line, and there's the line given by this equation right here. Okay, and that's it. That's what you're going to do every single time. Hopefully you come out with whole numbers. If you don't, big deal. You just graph the fraction. It's really not that big of a deal if that happens. All right, so good luck. Remember, x-intercept y is 0, y-intercept x is 0.